Traditional teaching models have fallen out of touch with the real motivations and needs of today's students. The transformation of education is already underway, thanks to active learning methodologies. But educators are faced with a major challenge. How can they implement these innovative teaching methods? Meet DreamShaper, an online tool that helps institutions and teachers implement active methodologies with a strong focus on project-based learning. These projects challenge students to do their own research and come up with unique solutions within topics proposed by the teacher. Students find themselves taking ownership of their education, not just learning more, but learning better. Students are guided along practical and highly motivational learning paths, building projects that align with both the curriculum and their interests. The tool helps to create projects with predefined challenges, activities, and content that ensure students can progress independently. This kind of independence is key in engaging students in the learning process and helps teachers focus on the projects, using the tool to closely follow the students' progress, whether in person or remotely. Students develop vital skills such as creativity, curiosity, and critical thinking. Teachers can easily implement an innovative and efficient teaching method, which reduces the need to constantly intervene. And institutions can boast the most cutting-edge methodology tailored to the needs and desires of today's students. The quality of education today will define the generations of tomorrow. DreamShaper, shaping education.
So here we are. Hello, everyone. Hello, Lars. Well, first of all, thank you, everyone, for your time and for being here with us. Thank you, Lars, also for your time. And here we are once again organizing these moments in DreamShaper, trying to bring relevant topics and relevant subjects that obviously cross what we do every day. It's obvious that our focus is on active learning and project-based learning and on helping worldwide learning institutions implementing and scaling these type of methodologies. But obviously these methodologies cross themselves with a bunch of other topics within the challenges that education has nowadays. And I guess that one of the topics is the topic we are bringing today. So everything that goes around internationalization of higher education, multiculturalism. How can we turn our universities and our schools into global, let's say, global players or opportunities for our students to have a global mindset? I think that we really live in a globalized world, and sometimes I feel that education is still a little bit late on that process. And today we have with us Lars Janér, a friend and a partner for many years, and also happens to be a specialist on technology and on education. Well, Lars, you will present yourself, but thanks for your time, and it will be great to discuss this subject with you and to bring hopefully some ideas and more, maybe even better than ideas, some questions and some challenges that then people can turn into ideas about this specific subject. So I think it would be great if you could start presenting yourself, and then we will have a chat here about the subject and about our visions on the subject and our experiences. But I think that we can start by presenting ourselves. So, well, I'm co-founder and CEO at DreamShaper. Forgot to present myself, but here I am. Lars, stage is yours.
Thank you, João. Thanks, everyone, and I'm very happy to be here. Looking forward to the conversation. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you. And yeah, like you mentioned, I've been working in education and more specifically technology for education, right? Applied to education for over 12 years now. It's been a long journey and a very interesting one, considering what happened in the past 12 years, which I agree with you, it's still a lot to be done. But I've worked for global companies, global ed tech companies, right? I mean, education technology companies, as they were expanding, as they were coming to Latin America. I am actually based here in Sao Paulo, in Brazil. So I worked as an executive. I also worked as, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur also for a few years now. And just so everyone knows, I'm currently the founder and CEO of Learnbase, which is a hub for different technologies, and we are supporting educators, institutions, mostly in Brazil for now, but in general, as they try to choose from, I mean, all the tools and all the technologies available these days, and make sure they work together well, and they go and, I mean, they can actually fulfill their goals and help their students and teachers evolve. So that's in a nutshell what I've been doing, and yeah, lots of interesting things to talk about here when we talk about going global and multiculturalism. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's see where
I
we can
think
go.
although that at this moment you are more focused in Brazil, not only in Brazil but starting from Brazil, I know that you have this great experience on worldwide education technology companies. Also, in our side, we also, as you know, started in Brazil, but we have now uh, partner institutions in more than 20 countries, students in more than 50 countries, and so I think that this helps us having at least our opinions about what's the status quo of multiculturalism and internationalization in universities, and maybe what should be the next steps, and how technology can be an enabler, as always technology is, for that purpose. And one thing that I feel is that, um, you know, working in different parts of the world and with different partners in the world, I see that it's not that, okay, we know cases, we will talk about some of those that maybe are in Europe or in the US, but in general, I think there are big steps to 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 give in every part of the world, and to use all the technology and all everything that makes us all so close. I mean, Lisbon, you are 10,000 kilometers from me. We are doing this easily in a language that is not our native language, not mine and not yours too. And so I think this is an example of how barriers are short nowadays, and how education should use that in favor of the institution, but mostly of the students, right? That should be prepared for a global world.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's the first point we would talk about it. I think it's interesting from the point of view of the student, right? I think being exposed to a multicultural environment has several advantages. First of all, I mean, I think for the individual, right, for the student, in different ages as well, but I think they learn how to communicate with different cultures. They learn possibly adaptability. They learn about empathy, and they're like like personal growth. I think that's a thing that the students will gain. But I think nowadays we talk a lot about how students are or not prepared for the job market, right? And I think one thing about the job market, like you said, is that it's most probably you're going to be working across borders, you're going to be working across cultures. So having this experience in the classroom, be it online or be in person, I think will better prepare them to be there. So I think it's not a matter of, when you talk about going global, it's not just a matter of like overcoming the language barrier, but it's really about making sure you do have this collaboration across cultures and across different
And
geographies.
this mindset that gets you ready to work with different people from different countries with different ways of being, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it helps you develop it helps all this connection with the job market. So I feel like whenever you have this kind of experience, you are better ready for something like this. I have an example. I think it's good to talk about examples, right? But of a social entrepreneurship course that was getting people together from different parts of the world to build companies to solve real life problems, right? And when we saw what was happening there, where you have people from the Middle East interacting with people from Latin America and like explaining what are the real problems for them, right? So they learn about new problems, you learn about problem solving, and you also learn how to work together with the people from different places. And it was an incredible experience, and also because it had um, some a bit of like viewing what is their sense of a better world or things to improve the world, right? So this also came from different perspectives when you talk about developing country or first world country. So these concepts and these ideas, they come into a practice when you were actually involved in a project like this. So that's why I think the students themselves, they gain a lot, and they feel and they actually are better, adapted and ready for the market.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty much proved that diversity brings quality and great results. But we need to make sure our students are prepared to deal with diversity. And I mean
Yeah,
every type of diversity, also cultural and language and regional diversity. Let's say.
that's a very important point, because I think sometimes diversity is seen as something that like you have a checklist, right? Oh, diverse. So and you feel like you're just trying to be diverse for the sake of diversity, right? But actually, it's important to go and look at the studies that show that when you do have this diversity of people discussing and talking about a problem, the end results are indeed better or more complete or more. There is a real result there. So it's not really about mentioning diversity for the sake of it. So I think that's a good point, João.
And with the type of connection that we have with every part of the world at this moment, and even the mobility, if we look into Europe, the mobility is great nowadays. Everyone can live whatever they want, and the chances that you will cross yourself in a job with people from different countries and different cultures, and you will have to work with those people to achieve results. I think that it's very dangerous if we are not preparing our students for that reality, because in the end, the first experiences they will have with that will be in the job market, and that's dangerous for them, for the universities, and for the job market. And I guess that in some cases we see that there are some informal education solutions and offers in the market that are somehow competing with the universities, that in the end, in the middle of other things, one of the things they are bringing is that type of that characteristic of putting students, working with different students from different parts of the world, and developing the type of skills they develop on those experiences that companies are looking for. And one thing that we were talking a little bit about this before, but one thing that I feel it's interesting to explore is that still, again, in the different countries we work on, that those are the ones we know a little bit better. But I feel that still universities looking to internationalization level 1, let's say. So I
Yes.
guess that everyone, we see an effort, and that's being done for years, of connecting with the universities from other countries, having some joint research and some joint dual degree programs, etc. But to be honest, nowadays I feel that that's just level 1, and we see universities doing things much ahead. And I think that with the technology available, the world is so small nowadays. There's so many things we can do. So maybe I think that could be something we could explore a little bit. Like, what can we do besides visiting other country universities and putting 2 or 3 scientists together to do a research? How can we do it in a more scalable and systemic way? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think well, the first thing when you think about the actual, put in practice an internationalization project, of course you have to think about the language, right? So this is the first step. like how we are gonna manage this. And I think the language barrier is falling quickly now.
Mhm.
So people are, of course, with the AI these days, it's getting very, I mean, quickly, very cheaper. I mean, very, it's going very, it's a lot easier to translate or to get your content across the world in any language. So this is like a easy first step, and I think it's been happening for a long time now. So
Yeah.
or getting your content in different platforms, right? So you can
Mm.
also translate and put it up. But I think it's just a first step. So I think there's a lot to be done. But I think one of the things is actually understanding the point of view of each culture when you actually go on a, for example, a project-based learning where you need to the students to work together on a project, right? So in this case, you need to deal with different expectations, right? So from different places of the world. So you actually have to put in place a project, a real plan. So you have all these challenges like mapped out before, because it goes well beyond, like you said, I mean, just a partnership or just traveling or just doing something like a joint program or something. It is a different mindset, when you have to actually go and do a multicultural project, goes beyond language, goes beyond geography sometimes, and it really is about understanding. But it's a growth process for the teacher and for the institution. That's what I believe, and it's not as quick as it would be. I mean, good, but I think it's still worth it. So
Yeah, agree, agree. And I think
yeah,
that one of the steps that we see, we were even talking about some universities in Spain and in Portugal that are doing that, that they're looking to internationalization is much more. Look, I'm a Spanish, university, but I'm not a Spanish university for Spanish people. I'm for people from everywhere, and so this is a kind of a strategic decision that then changes your positioning and your offer and so on and so forth. But in the end, we see nowadays the case of IE in Spain, or even the case of Nova SBE here in Portugal, which are universities that most of their students, and even most of the, I wouldn't say most, but a good number of their teachers are not Portuguese or Spanish. And I think this is one thing that sometimes universities miss a little bit, is okay, maybe I can think about being international, not going abroad, but bringing students from abroad to my university, and how can I attract them? And I see these two examples we were talking about, but the Nova SBE, which I know a little bit better, it's not only about what the university has to offer, is about what the country has to offer. Like, they work that a lot. Like, the value proposition for German students and French students and British students is huge. They are coming to a beautiful campus in front of the beach in the most sunny country in Europe, uh, safe country, low cost compared to other big cities in Europe. And so I think that it's not only about the academic offer, but also about offering what the region or the country has to offer. And I see that this is still something that is only done by like really high tier universities. But to be honest, I feel that there's a space for every type of university to think, to think like this, and to search for this type of, like, bringing this international, this multicultural uh, reality, without needing to move forward, move to other country, but bringing the other
yeah.
countries.
I think in some ways it happened. I mean, one of the things that pushed towards this move, I work also, I mean, very close, and I see a lot of examples from the US as well, right? So the US had and has lots of international students coming up, and I see this happening more in England as well. But sometimes it has to do also with also improving their revenues, right? So it starts with like opening up your borders and opening up your market. Having a larger market to go after also helps your bottom line, right? Because you can actually, and sometimes these international students, they will be able to pay like a full tuition. You don't need, so it the one of the driving factors was reaching a broader market and improving your finances in general, right? Revenue and all. But I think it brings so many other advantages, right? And I see this happening. Some of the, you mentioned IE in Spain, which I think is doing a great job, and now they talked about opening an MBA campus in New York and Manhattan, which is very interesting. You know, they're moving to the next step, which is actually going abroad. But I am in Brazil. I am the ambassador for the London School of Economics Entrepreneurship Division. It's called Generate, and I see what comes out of Generate, which is like sort of an accelerator and like their support base for students that are actually go entrepreneurial. So you see lots of startups being born there, and you see the multicultural aspect of it going to forward to the startups they're creating. They create startups that they are born global and they think global, and they so it's a different mindset. So I think looking at these examples, and these are all great names to look at, and you see and how they're doing this. It's super interesting, so you can actually see the steps they're taking and the way they
Yeah.
are going with their strategy. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, that we know that if we search for them, most of these cases are high-end universities, and we know that it's let's say very it's you need a good investment and a good economic situation to do to do that type of step.
Yeah,
But at the
true.
same
Yeah,
time, I think that that's not the only solution, and so this is the good. I guess that's also the good news, you know. And like as you were saying, like technology, like the world is moving fast, and technology is moving even faster, maybe. And the truth is that nowadays we can do big things with low costs using technology. That's the truth. Even what AI is bringing, and the costs, like the cost will go down for
yeah,
sure, but still they are not very high at this point. And the truth is that looking into this on how to bring multicultural and international experiences to our students, I think that technology can be an enabler to make it happen in the real world. Let's say, okay, I'm not the type of university that can position myself as or NYU or London Business School. So let me see what I can do in my own reality. And I think that technology can be a great enabler. And sometimes what's missing is creativity. It's like, okay, how can I connect to these other 10 universities that have my profile and create a hub and use technology to have students from different universities working on projects together, because in the end it will be good for all the 10 universities and for their students. And so, and I wanted to hear a little bit what you think about this, and considering these years of experience you have in technology and education technology in different
yeah. Of
providers
course.
here.
Yeah, I think. I mean, one main driver of this, I think you explained super well, is I think over the past, I mean, 15 years, we have seen very, I mean, mass adoption of what we call the LMS, right? The learning management system, which is the like a main piece of technology for students and teachers to interact. And I think we came from a world where people were trying to develop in-house to like super scalable and super easy to use platforms. I worked for 4 years to one of the leaders, the global leaders. And I mean, it was one of the international experiences I had, because you really had to go global with a product across geographies and languages and cultures. And it was super interesting to see this being applied to several different countries, but the same structure, the same modules, the same idea. So it became a more of a well-known and familiar environment for students and teachers to work on, right? So the way you engage with the chats and the forums and the modules and everything. So I think this was a very important first step. But like you said, I mean, I don't think sometimes the mindset is not there. Like, we are scalable. We have an amazing educate. We have an amazing content, amazing products, amazing education. Let's think global with this, right? So I think this next step is what we're talking about here. Several good examples of how it's done. Several examples of how people do like a first step, like I mentioned, like putting it online in a different language, or putting it on YouTube, or trying to attract global students in a more of an improvised way. But I think it's important to think through the steps and do it in a way that is really engaging. But like you said, I mean, like nowadays with tools like DreamShaper, you can create products and experiences that go beyond the LMS and actually do have the engagement that you need to create this even if not in person, but the experience with less expense, right? With less investment. So, yeah, I think technology is the big enabler now. AI is the turbo now, so you can actually do this in a much better and much faster and possibly cheaper way,
Yeah,
and possibly right the promise of the self-driving or of the students or the tutor personalized tutors is coming to becoming real, right? So the student will have lots of autonomy, which will be less demanding on the teachers and tutors. So I think the timing is perfect for those that are considering it, because there will be several new ways of making this happen. And I think
yeah,
the ones that move now will be in a great position in a few years. So I'm
yeah,
really excited about this possibility that technology maybe is finally enabling things to be done in without as much investment. It had to be, like you said.
yeah, yeah. And I really think that it's not a matter of waiting for the new technologies and the disruptive technologies. It's much more a matter of what we need to develop on our students, which is creativity, problem solving skills, and I think that with creativity and using the technology that exists, we can do huge things and huge impact on our students' lives and on our teachers' lives too. And I think I agree that, like, I think the LMSs bring a new reality. If I look, we have these very big countries that have been using LMSs for a longer time because they need that to deal with the volume and to deal with the scale and the distances, etc.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
but now I think it's a reality on any university worldwide,
Yeah,
and but still I think that like the LMSs were made and they are still made to be. I usually explain it like this: like they are the virtual campuses of the university, and as the
yeah,
real
yeah,
campuses, you have the entrance and you have the classrooms and you have the administrative services and you have the places to talk to teachers and all that. But then there are a bunch of different products, DreamShaper being one of those products specific for project-based learning and active learning, and I
yeah.
think that uh, relevant for the discussion we are having today. But the truth is that there are nowadays there is a whole world of tools, technological tools that are made to be plugged in the LMSs and to bring things that naturally the LMSs don't bring because they are not focused on that. They are focused on being the platform. And I think that
Exactly.
still here in Europe, I feel, and maybe because the consolidation of the LMSs came a little bit afterwards, comparing to the US or even to LATAM.
Agreed.
I think that
Yeah.
still people are still on that mindset that I can do everything with my LMS, and
Yeah, true.
and,
And we see a
uh,
lot of Moodle, right? Moodle is very popular in Europe, in
it
Brazil
is.
too. It has more of a craft way of doing things. So I agree with you. But I think everyone is, let's say, having their updated versions of their own products. I mean, each time better, and there are more and more options to actually attach, right? I mean, to
Plug
install
and
on
play.
your, yeah, plug and play with to create better experience. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the most important
And
thing now.
now maybe one thing that I really believe in. Well, I'm naturally I'm passionate about project based learning and the
Yeah,
potential that challenge based learning, project based learning, problem based learning, like working in teams to solve problems, the potential that it has to engage students and to develop the right skills, but also to learn how to deal with the diversity and how to deal with the multiculturalism. We really believe, and we have some cases that we are developing for have been developing for the past years, that project-based learning can be a huge mean for to promote internationalization. And I think that the same way, like we like now this year we have more than 1 million students using DreamShaper, and all these students are working on projects, learning on team projects, etc. Some of them on presential learning, some of them on online learning, some of them on hybrid learning. So obviously each reality it's different. But I think that one of the greater barriers for the development of this type of methodologies is like an idea, or it's actually true that without the right tools, it's difficult to do it on distance, it's difficult to do it in scale,
Yeah,
because it demands a lot from the teacher. It demands that we are together, working together all the time,
yeah,
that
yeah,
we are on the same place. But the truth is that that's not true.
yeah,
Obviously it demands working together, it demands being together, sometimes it demands doing things on the real world, it demands support from the teacher, and the feedback from the teacher, etc. But with the right tools it can be scalable, and I
yeah,
think that was our vision, as it still is. But in back in 10 years ago when he started, and now when I look, as I was doing yesterday night, to our analytics and seeing that we have like almost 1.5 million students this year using
wow,
DreamShaper, I think that, well,
congrats.
it's
Yeah,
something we must be helping on.
yeah,
But what I think is, I really think that project-based learning with DreamShaper or without DreamShaper can be a huge opportunity to connect with other universities in other countries, and to do what you were saying in the beginning. Like you mentioned an example of students working on global challenges, because as we know, there are a bunch of global challenges nowadays that are the same despite the region of the world where you're at, and students in different countries working together, different language. You were talking about AI and language, and I was recalling that 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when the war in Ukraine started, we received here in my home with my family, a family that came from running from Ukraine. And the communication was very complicated because they didn't speak English, So by then, before the AI revolution, or Gen AI revolution, we were using like Google Translate. The kids would write on his cell phone, and then I would see and write him again in his cell phone, and so on. And I was thinking, with a bunch of tools that came out with the AI over the past 6 months, how how much easier it would be if we had those tools to communicate and to help them 2.5 years ago. So things are moving very fast, and I think that with the technology we have nowadays, we can use creativity and we can do huge things with low cost. It's not about the cost; it's about creativity, I think.
yeah.
Um,
And I think also about collaboration, right? Working together, So I think, like I said, I mean, the content is a big piece, of course, and it's important to have. But I mean, once you have this, without, like I said, I mean, nowadays you can do all these projects and these ideas and this engagement happen without the need for so much investment, so many people involved, right? So it can be done. So in the collaboration, if you get to a point, I think we're getting there, right, where there's real-time translation, that will change everything, because you can actually communicate with anyone, anytime, any language. That will be a game changer. I think everyone should be prepared for this moment where we can be in a group call, on a Zoom call, each one speaking their language, they will all understand. So
we are
this will
close,
be a
very close to that, I think.
we're very close to that. That will be transformative for multicultural
Yeah,
classrooms or collaboration or projects or whatever. So I feel like that's why this topic today is so important and so relevant, because we're on the brink of something really interesting here. And I see this myself in several ways, because, like I said, we work with several global companies, right? For example, we work very closely with Coursera, also going global. And Coursera, they shared with us that it used to take them, I mean, months to translate a course, because they're very, I mean, careful with the content, right? And now they're doing hundreds of translations per month instead of a few, right? So it's actually democratizing the access to content, because you can have that amazing teacher in any language in the world, and it's going to happen, and possibly they're going to be speaking the language, the accents. So these barriers are falling real fast. And I think the next question is, okay, once we have this so democratically available, how do we work when collaborating and working together? How do we do the project? So this is the real piece of the going global thing that needs to be thought through. I mean, we should looking at the examples, but also looking to the I mean, to the tools available. And I mean, and one thing I believe is that it's not supposed to be easy, right? I mean, like we said, we can't, maybe not too expensive, but the process of going through this will be a growth process for everyone involved. So I think the actual movement will be very, very good for everyone. So
Yeah, and one thing that I have been thinking is like. Unfortunately, like the world is changing very fast, and this is like everyone is saying in the end because it's true.
yeah,
Things are
yeah,
moving very fast. All the dynamics around the world, technology is moving very fast. The AI revolution. I think that it's everyone knows that this is a revolution the size of the revolution of the internet and industrial revolution and other. But as we have seen along history, all the revolutions, the next revolution brings its impacts much faster than the previous. And I
true.
think this revolution will not take 20 years like the internet took to make the difference that way we feel nowadays. It will be much faster. But I'm just saying this because in nowadays I think we live in a world where the job market and the real life, not only on the job, is being pushed by these changes very fast. And when we look into an educational segment where DreamShaper works a lot too, which is K to 12 education, I think that K to 12 is still not adapting to this fast changing world and movement that we are living on. And this is not over the past 2 years; it's over the past, well,
Yeah,
there are these
longer time. Yeah,
made words of
yeah,
made sentences that the schools, the classrooms are still as they were in the 19th century and so on. It's maybe a little bit exaggerated, but in the end, they make sense. But what I think is, and it's not their fault, is because, in my opinion, the criteria like the KPI for K to 12 education is to bring students to the next level, which usually is higher education, and the assessment and the type of skills that are being evaluated to enter universities, for me, are not the right type of skills. And if you don't change that, you won't change K to 12 education. But I'm just saying this because K to 12 education, these kids are up until 17 or 18 years old, not being prepared for this, for the world where we are living at this point. And then 5 years later, they will, if they do university, they will actually enter the real world. And so universities and our higher education is in the middle of these two, and has a huge responsibility of in 5 years preparing these students, or 3 years sometimes, or two, preparing these people to the real world. And I think this is a huge challenge. Uh, and with this challenge come a lot of things, like the type of methodologies, the type of skills, the type of experiences. I think that everyone accepts that content is a commodity nowadays. You can find good content everywhere. So it's not about the
yeah,
content, it's about the
yeah.
experience that these students will have in your university, because good content they can find everywhere. Even the best teachers' content, Harvard's content is out there. And so all the content is out there. Now you can even go to ChatGPT and curate the best content that is out there in less than a minute. So I think it's a lot about the experience. But we were talking now, and I was thinking on how, like, when they go to the real world, this 5 years later, or 4 or 3, they will be submitted to the need of having a certain type of skills. And I think that one of the main skills, and considering that we are on a global world with all the mobility and all the, like in DreamShaper, we are like 70 people working in different countries, different languages, different places. We are not hiring people because they are Portuguese or Brazilian or Spanish. We are hiring because we feel they feel our mission, and they have the skills to help us running after it. And so I think that this and just now going back to the main point is that I think that internationalization is not a matter of positioning how it was 10 years ago or 20. It's a
Yeah,
matter of survival, and I think that changing
true,
universities is a matter of survival, because as
true.
we know, there are lots of young people understanding that what they need to do this bridge from K to 12 to the real world. Maybe it's not an university, because traditional universities maybe are not talking their language and showing that they will develop the skills they know they need. And I feel that maybe international, being more international, it's a matter of survival and not a matter of positioning anymore. I'm not sure if
Yeah,
you.
I agree. No, I totally agree. Actually, I think I mean, there are several challenges with these new times, right? But I think there are two that are come to mind here that I'm really thinking about a lot. And one of them is the fact that it will be the job market will change as well, right? So when you talk about universities that they themselves are working to prepare the students for the job market, they need to understand that possibly, and what we're looking at already, is that entry level jobs will be very different, right? Because when the companies they can use AI to perform lots of the like automation or like robotic tasks, it means that probably the students that they were hiring to do this won't be necessary. So the student needs to come with a different set of skills, right? And that's why we were saying in the beginning that a student that comes from a multicultural institution, they come with a different set of skills and a lot of like empathy, understanding, and like work in collaboration, like we're saying. So all these skills that are more human skills, let's say, right, they will be even more important now. So I think universities need to think, of course, through this the evolving changes around the entry level jobs that students will be performing, especially when the first job, right? So, how will they be positioning their alumni to the market? Like these are really ready for the new market. Of course, it has to do with ability to change, use of the new tools, but also all the human aspects of it and the working groups thing. And the second challenge, just to finish, is I feel like you mentioned like this possibly this change will happen faster than before, and I think I agree. But I also think that what's different maybe this time is that when we saw like first, I mean, I'm old enough to see like CD-ROMs will be the future of education, and then internet will be the future of education, and we all always saw these promises, but what we saw in practice was that usually it took longer for these technologies to actually impact education, right? And one of the reasons, it's actually a good reason, is that educators tend to be more conservative and they wait to see if there's a real advantage of using new technology. And this time I feel like AI is actually taking over because the students already using it, so it's not an option to wait. The thing
Yeah,
is your student is using AI at home, so educators are facing a real challenge here. So how do you adapt this whole course and this whole thing so that it's not like too much content or homework or things that will possibly, I mean, it doesn't really matter much more to prepare this person, right?
yeah,
That's where all these things come together, and I feel like these are two very important challenges for the next generation of educators. I mean, for actually for we're talking about next year, right? So, but it will be a transformation that we'll
yeah,
see happen over the next few years. But this is already there, and I see because I also have children, not children anymore, right? But students in university and they're going to the job market now. I see how life is for them as they go for the job market and see that it's changing super quick. So I think that's a big
yeah.
challenge.
I have my other girl. She's 8 years old, and she has a group work to do to deliver this Friday. And when yesterday she asked me if she couldn't use that chat GPT we are talking
Yeah,
about
you see? Yeah,
to do the work, and she's 8 years old. And you were talking, and I was recalling that yesterday I had a conversation. I was talking to you in university, and they were telling me, no, we have this big challenge now, like how we will make sure that the work, like the assessment and the work that the student is delivering, it wasn't done by ChatGPT. And I was saying, look, your biggest challenge is, it shouldn't be that challenge, but more around how to make sure your students know how to do the right prompts, how to make sure your students
Yeah, exactly.
thinking to understand if what's coming from
Yeah.
AI makes sense or not. But I guess it's normal that we are living this turbulent moments. And I think that, just to finish, that one of the things that we should bet on should be on teachers too. We talk a lot about students and what they need, etc.
Yeah.
Sometimes we forget to talk about teachers and how to help teachers adopting these technologies. If we wait, teachers have tough days, and if we think about higher education teachers, usually they are professionals. They have their other activities beside being a teacher in the university, so they don't have that much time. And the pace is very fast at this point. And I think that technology has a kind of a responsibility to make it easier for teachers to adapt. Because if we wait for teachers to be autodidactic and learn everything alone, it won't be fast enough. We will have some that will adapt fast enough, but the majority won't. So I think that we should look into that too. And again, I think that bringing international context to connecting teachers, and another, we won't have time for that today, but most of the times, and even as we did that today, when we are discussing multiculturalism and internationalization, we are looking a lot into students and how it's important for students and so on and so forth. But I think that maybe we should think a little bit more about how that could be powerful for teachers, to internationalize teachers and to put them in working with other teachers from other countries. And I think sometimes we forget a little bit about that. And I was even also it was a coincidence, 2 or 3 different universities on the past 2 or 3 weeks from different countries that were telling me that they did these assessments and this they have been working on understanding what their students like and don't like, etc. And in the 3 cases, 3 different, nothing to do with each other institutions in 3 different countries, they were saying that no, students are criticizing the curriculum and the content and the technologies. And in all the 3 cases, what the students valued the most were the teachers. Teachers are still important, and they will be important, and I think that we can't forget about how to prepare teachers for all these challenges that we were talking about, and how to make technology helpful for them, because if we are designing technology that is not helpful, or that is trying to substitute them, or we won't do what we need to do, because teachers will be here. We will need to help them to do the work in a better way, and to adapt, and to maybe be more scalable, because we know that the number of students is growing, the number of teachers is going down, and so scalability of their work is important. But I think that that work in education technology, we should be thinking on how, if we really want to change education as we want, we need to think about the teachers and think about how to make it easier for them to adapt.
Yeah, I think it's really, I mean, usually the best way to engage teachers is to show them how it will save them time, it will improve their performance, improve their outcomes, because I think AI, one of the big, I mean, potentials of AI is actually relieving the teachers of the burden of all the bureaucracy. Sometimes they have to deal with the classroom activity or the learning activity, some things they need to do, and we don't see as much because there's a lot being done in the background. So if we find a way for these tools to immediately improve the teacher's life, save them time, improve their work, I think it's amazing, because what we need them to do is actually the human piece of it, right? So it's the engagement, is the connection, is the one-to-one. So this is where they will shine and they will value. But what I see is that the change has been so fast and so large that we see some teachers who are enthusiastic and adopting, but we also see in our experience, lots of teachers across the world. It's not a local thing, right? But some of them are um, resistant, so they are still like almost in a denial state, like trying to keep doing the way they have always done, and they're not really embracing it. And some of the teachers are actually very frustrated and angry at this point, because what happens is that ChatGPT is ruining some of the work they do because, like I said, I mean, students are using these tools, and sometimes they beat the purpose of the whole class that was prepared because they are in some ways not following the rules, or what we call cheating nowadays, right? so
Mhm.
so we see, I mean, I see myself, my personal vision, I see teachers on these, mostly these three categories. Of course there are several nuances here on how we see this, but I feel like you have a great point there. It's important to get them engaged and to help them rethink the whole process. You mentioned your daughter's homework. What I see, we are partners also with Turnitin, which is detecting plagiarism and similarity, right? So also detecting AI in some languages now, and it's not all now about punishing people who use the tools, right? It's about really educating and like working together, like you said, like using the tools correctly, but
Yeah.
maybe even rethinking. This is something that, I mean, the Turnitin people were writing about this. It's like, should we rethink the concept of authorship, right? So maybe if I created a text together with AI, it's still considered my text, or is it, how much
Mhm.
of a collaboration was it, right? So
Huge
human
discussion
AI.
on that with pictures and art and
Yeah, exactly. So, who's the author? Does it matter? Should we matter? How should we? It's so many things happening. But I mean, anyway, so going back to this point, I think teachers are key piece, because the students will also be going through challenges, and the teachers need to be there to make this happen and prepare them for the new world, and they need to be ready. And sometimes it doesn't mean putting everything on AI, but it's actually engaging and thinking through the process with them. And I mean, we're all learning, right? So it's
yeah.
super hard. Yeah.
Yes, and as we said before, and that this could be a whole other hour discussing
Yeah.
K to 12 K to 12 education still they still, the truth is unfortunately that it's still possible to resist and achieve success in K to 12 education. I think that will change fast, but not, most probably not as fast as it should.
True.
But higher education can't,
Yeah.
because higher education is subjected to the job and the real
Market.
world
Yeah. Yeah.
job
True.
market and real
I
world
agree.
force.
Yeah.
And so just to wrap up, I think that we agree that internationalization and bringing multiculturalism and all the consequences of doing international activities in our universities, it's not a nice to have, but much more a need to have
Yeah.
for universities. They have this very difficult mission of doing everything that K to 12 education hasn't done on the 15 years, 15 previous years. Maybe I'm being unfair, but in lots of case, to prepare these guys for the real world. And if there are lots of ways of doing it, right? There are lots of levels, but the truth is that the more complex and the more ambitious levels are much easier to accomplish nowadays than they were before, when we didn't have the all technological solutions we have nowadays. AI, not only AI, we ended up
Yeah.
discussing. It's kind of
Yeah.
inevitable to discuss AI nowadays
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
finish every conversation discussing AI. But
Uh-huh.
the truth is that there are lots of technologies that have AI or are not AI based, but have AI features, but
True.
that can be very helpful to run after more ambitious ways of going international without having to spend lots of money, but and changing everything, and well, and I think these were the main messages we bring on our discussion, right? It's like it's a matter of survival. It's there are different levels. Let's start from level 1, but let's not forget that level 2 and 3 are not are not impossible.
Yeah.
And let's use creativity and technology to make it happen, because we need to do it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Lars, I think we are. It was fast. It was a good
Yeah,
conversation.
well, we could stay here for much longer, but yeah, really
Yeah.
good.
But thank you for the input, and thank you for your time,
Sure.
and for
Yeah.
joining us today on this discussion.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we raised some flags, and we will put some people thinking on about this a little bit more.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's a wrap. Thank you, Lars, and
Thank
I
you,
will see
João.
you. And thank you everyone for watching
Thank
us.
everyone. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Traditional teaching models have fallen out of touch with the real motivations and needs of today's students. The transformation of education is already underway, thanks to active learning methodologies. But educators are faced with a major challenge. How can they implement these innovative teaching methods? Meet DreamShaper, an online tool that helps institutions and teachers implement active methodologies with a strong focus on project-based learning. These projects challenge students to do their own research and come up with unique solutions within topics proposed by the teacher. Students find themselves taking ownership of their education, not just learning more, but learning better. Students are guided along practical and highly motivational learning paths, building projects that align with both the curriculum and their interests. The tool helps to create projects with predefined challenges, activities, and content that ensure students can progress independently. This kind of independence is key in engaging students in the learning process and helps teachers focus on the projects, using the tool to closely follow the students' progress, whether in person or remotely. Students develop vital skills such as creativity, curiosity, and critical thinking. Teachers can easily implement an innovative and efficient teaching method, which reduces the need to constantly intervene. And institutions can boast the most cutting-edge methodology, tailored to the needs and desires of today's students. The quality of education today will define the generations of tomorrow. DreamShaper, shaping education.